Hello, busy dads and busy people everywhere. Welcome to episode 5 of the Busy Dad podcast. This is the show where I have the privilege of sitting down with fellow burpee practitioners and hearing their stories. And today I'm very, very pleased to be joined by Graham. Graham, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Max. It is awesome to be here. It's almost surreal to think that I'm actually on the Busy Dad show, and it's great to be here. I'm happy to obviously be speaking with you today, and hopefully I can bring some valuable insight or just valuable experience, to the podcast. Just
Absolutely.
having gone through it myself.
I have absolutely no doubt that you will. For some context, my friends, Graham and I have been working together from since day one of the coaching practice. I
Yeah.
believe we're coming up for 6 months in our working relationship now. We've really got to know each other over the past 6 months, and it's been a real joy working with Graham. I think just for people who are listening, Graham, I think the first thing we'll do is we'll talk stats, we'll talk where you're at in the program, and then maybe we
Yeah.
can talk about how you got to the Busy Dad program in the first place and what the journey's been like. But to begin with,
Okay.
where are you at in the program right now?
Okay, so in the program right now, I am on a level 3, I believe, for the seals,
Yeah.
which is 100 seal 10 counts. But I've actually surpassed that, and I think my PR at the moment is 105. So that's where I lie with the seals, and with the 6 counts, I'm currently still on level 2, I believe, because I'm working towards level 3. Um, at the moment, I'm sort of plateauing at around 220 to 225
Yeah.
reps in 20 minutes, but I have surpassed that in a few weeks past. I've actually been up to 240. So I'm not too far off getting to level 3,
Yeah.
but it seems to have pulled back a little bit, and I seem to be stuck in that zone where I think with time, and you've mentioned this before, there are times and you can get stuck at a certain level and you think that that's it, you're just going to be at that
Yeah.
stage forever, and you can almost get demoralized a little bit because you're capable of more, but
Mhm.
for some reason, whatever it is, you just seem to be at that level. So I'm sticking with that for the moment, and I'm glad to still even be at that state, at that point with the 6 counts.
Yeah.
But no doubt, I'm sure that going forward, and having you by my side and everything, I think that I can surpass that and reach level 3. So
Yeah.
my goal moving forward is obviously to get to level 3
Oh, yeah.
on the 6 counts.
For sure. We'll get you to level 3. We'll get you beyond. Um, so you always know that you are really in the practice when you hit your first plateau. I tell a lot of my guys this, that the day they hit their first plateau, it's a day to celebrate. And that sounds paradoxical, but the beginner gains happen for a while, and then you'll have some like artificial setbacks 2, 3 months in, but it's never long before you get over them. Usually it was just a bad day. It wasn't a genuine plateau. A plateau is when you've genuinely got to the limit of what your body is capable of right now and what your mind is capable of right now. And two reasons I celebrate, and two reasons I'm kind of proud. One is like, to reach your limits takes a lot of work, takes a lot of persistence. Most people never find out where the limits are. So that's the first reason that I'm happy. I'm kind of proud of my guys when they hit a plateau, because it's taken a lot of work to get to this point. But I'm also really excited because what I know is happening, because it's happened to me so many times, is that your body and your spirit behind the scenes are building the resources for a radical transformation where you reach the limit and you're gonna expand the limit. You're gonna go beyond the limit and transform yourself in the process. And so my strong feeling with you is that that process is underway right now. I thought we just had a little coaching session. I thought maybe you could tell people about the 225 session you did this week. Talk them through how you prepared for that, how it felt, the format you used. Give them a sense, because that session in particular made me think that you are very, very close to breaking through this plateau.
Yeah,
Talk.
so yes, for the 6 counts, I've been doing a format where I'm doing 25 reps in each set and doing 8 sets of 25 reps, each 2 minutes and I forget the time. I think it could be 2 minutes and 40 seconds, perhaps, or I think it's less,
No, we've
or
been
2 minutes
shrinking
and
that window right down. It's
we
between two
shrink it
minutes
down.
20 and 225, that kind of range.
Yeah, that kind of range. Yes, that's right. So it leaves me with I get to the 8th set, and that leaves me with 2 minutes and 20 seconds to do the last set. I think I get to 18 minutes and 40 seconds.
So one minute and
Oh, actually, 1 minute and 20. That's right.
yeah.
Um, and recently, so last week I did this particular format of workout, and just you've mentioned this before, like I tried to conjure up that sense of excitement beforehand of like, there's the nervousness mixed in with it, and where you kind of just take in some deep breaths, and you try to get focused and in the zone, and you have that, you can really feel it in your stomach, because you know that you're going to a place where it's painful,
Yeah.
it's going to be painful. And it's weird. And so many of the other people that I think have been on your podcast have mentioned that it's hard to explain when you're in the zone and when you're actually in the moment and going down and going to the ground, and then doing the rep, and when you're in that moment. And I think part of getting excited beforehand, I found myself getting to 25 reps, and I had done it well in advance of the time window, and I was just trying to rest hold as much as possible. So I really surprised myself that I was getting 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and then up to a minute in some points rest holding, up until I get to the seventh and then eighth set. And I think eventually it did kind of like catch up with me a little bit, because I did get tired towards the end. But I think the important bit there was that I was actually capable of getting that much rest holding. And I think it might serve me when it comes to like maybe adding an additional 25, an additional set of 25 reps. So at the moment, it's 8 of 25. And with the last 1 minute and 20, doing 20 reps.
Yeah.
So I think a target to go to next would to try and get nine sets of 25.
Yeah, exactly. So our strategy has been, we started with 8 sets of 25, 2 minutes 30. And the strategy is slowly collapse that work window. And every time you take 5 seconds off a work window, you put 5 seconds onto the end of the workout. That opens up space for some extra reps. When we get to
Exactly.
the point that we've opened up around 1 minute and 40, you can get another 25. These 25s, Graham and I do these every week. We do them, well, I have Graham doing them every week on a Thursday. And what I tell people is that I was listening to Iron Wolf back in the day early on, and he said the way to do burpees is to do sets of 25. That's how you break them up. I just took that as gospel. I took everything he said as gospel, and it just never occurred to me that there was any other way. I thought it was like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
official marine standard of doing burpees, and so I just never played with other formats for 18 months of training. And I found that when I did switch over to other ways of training, breaking up the reps more, perhaps pacing them more evenly, I had so much fitness and grit that I built up through this format. And so I think that the 25s won't be the way that we get you to your PRs directly, but they will give you the capacity. They'll help you build the overall fitness and kind of mental grit to get there.
Yes, and it's interesting because approaching the format that you approach can give you sort of different results, because I know I'm capable of doing 220 reps in a session, but if and that's doing the 25 reps format. If I did it, and we've done other sessions where I do 11 reps per set, so 20 sets of 11, and it's so interesting to me that it makes it, you can get to 220, but just because you're doing them in smaller sets, it makes it, the challenge, the dynamics change, and it makes it more difficult in some respects. I would have thought doing 25 reps would be harder, but sometimes doing less reps in a set can be
Yeah.
can be even more challenging.
And I think this speaks to something that people who haven't done the program look at it and they ask they say, how could it not be boring to be doing the same session all the time? And part of the answer to that is the formats just change everything. Like
Yes.
the way a workout feels if you're going unbroken one rep, so for me, 1 rep every 4 seconds versus sets of 15 bunched into 45 seconds versus sets of 25, okay, versus say a 24 down. I mean, these just feel completely different to each other. And I think, that's exactly what you're bringing out. The dynamics are just so different.
Yeah.
Where the
Yeah.
pain is, when it comes, how it comes, what your mind is telling you, it's completely different. Listen, man, I wanted to give people a sense of your story. I'm talking too much. It's a bad habit of mine. I want you to tell us, talk to us about your journey with the Busy Dad program, how long you've been doing it, and maybe along the way you can share some sort of lessons that you've learned.
Absolutely. No, thank you. Thank you for that. I maybe forgot to have mentioned at the beginning. I'm a dad of two beautiful and energetic young boys whose sole purpose it seems to be is just drain as much time, resources, and energy from both myself and my wife. But rightly so, because that is the nature of it, and in particular at their young ages. My eldest is only 3 years old. Well, he will be three in a couple of weeks, and my youngest turned one in July. So, I'm at the stage where they are just demanding no end, and so but taking it back a bit, before my first son was born, I wasn't really in. I mean, I did visit the gym. I was a gym goer, and I had tried various programs. I think the one that I most recently tried for an extended period of time was the Strong Lifts 5x5. So it's just, again, just focusing on five different types of weightlifting. I think most people will be familiar with or have heard of Strong Lifts, and it was good to a certain point. But I always found myself having to go to a gym to be able to carry out most of the workouts, and I just wasn't able to do it for consistently for an extended period of time. And then fast forwarding to when my son was born. This was just after COVID and everything else like that. So I immediately found that time was becoming very scarce. I was slightly, I wouldn't say overweight, but I was a bit heavier than I am today. So I took it upon myself to start running, and that's where I started. I think at work we started doing a charity a hike where we would go to the Lake District and try and raise money and walk for something like 30 kilometers, and that just kickstarted in me that I wanted to just try to lose weight, and I would do it firstly just by hiking and walking my dog. And then I progressed that into, I started running, and I just started doing 5K runs at least 4 times a week. So the weight slowly started coming down. And then fast forward to when my son was born in 2021. I bought a pull-up bar,
Mm-hmm.
installed that at home, and I thought, well, there's just going to be no time to go to the gym or anything like that. So I started doing workouts at home. But again, it still wasn't really that consistent or anything like that. So I slowly found myself starting to neglect working out, and again, the dad bod kind of thing started coming out a little bit. So I made the decision when my son was just about to turn 1 year old that I would I stopped drinking, for instance. So that was one decision that I think contributed a lot to just trying to get a streak on doing things consistently. I read up on this thing on Reddit called the X effect, which is something where you try to build up a streak of doing something and you mark it on a calendar with an X, and it's called an X. And the idea is the more X's you build up over time, you build up a momentum where you don't want to then break that chain.
Right.
And it's called the X effect, and then it almost becomes more painful to stop the streak
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh, rather
So,
than to keep going.
and so you're putting in the X every day that you're not drinking, or what
That's
would you
right.
want?
Yes, I started it with putting in the X with every day of not drinking, and then I started thinking to myself, well, I wonder if I could do pull-ups every day. You
Yeah,
know, whether it's just 5 pull-ups or 10 pull-ups or even just one pull-up, but I want to be able to do a pull-up every single day for a year.
yeah,
And with the idea of, yeah, so the aim was actually just so that I could just mark as an X that today there was a no drinking day,
yeah.
and I did a pull up, and I did the two concurrently. Actually, I carried on. I think the furthest I got with the pull ups was 265 days or something like that. But it got to a point where I was more focused on building reps with pull ups, and then I kind of got a little injury or a little niggle in my back
Yeah.
that prevented me from even just carrying on. So I couldn't even do one pull up after that. So I thought, okay, I just need to stop doing the pull ups. But I carried the no drinking streak, um, and up till today actually. Uh, so I got into a bit of a routine with pull-ups and running, and that was fine. And then my second born was on the way,
Yeah.
and we actually relocated houses. So I used to live in the London area, and now I'm in the Northwest. So I found very quickly that my routine that I had built up as was now all suddenly in the air, up in the air again. And we had moved house, and I found myself thinking, well, I don't want to, fall back into old ways or anything like that. I want to carry on with at least doing something that can that's consistent, that doesn't allow require me to be away or in the gym for an hour or two, and something that I can still be with my family. So I didn't immediately stumble upon Busy Dad program. It was funny. I was taking my dog for a walk one day and just on YouTube, and I think one of Lee's videos from
Yeah.
Strong and Conditioned, I think it
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
um, popped up. It was a short video, and he said he was talking about being a father and how free time is so rare, and you're just gonna you're gonna have to, every bit of time that you get, that you find yourself is free time, is so valuable. You're gonna have to just program that in and use it, to the best of your ability, and try and squeeze as much as you can into that free time as possible. And what he was, I think, getting at was like, if you want to work out, that's probably the time that you want to capitalize. You want to just use your time efficiently. So and the way he delivered it was just so funny, and it really resonated with me. And through looking through his videos, he spoke about burpees, and I had tried burpees in the past, and I was always afraid of them.
Mm.
I hated burpees, particularly the burpees where you had to do a jump at the end.
Yeah.
And I know this original burpee that we practice, that we are practitioners of,
Yeah.
doesn't incorporate a jump, which I think you've mentioned is the original burpee. I think the original burpee, whoever created it, didn't have a jump in it.
For sure.
And so I wasn't a big fan of it, but the way he delivered his video, and what he mentioned about the benefits with burpee training, it just captivated. I was captivated by it. And soon after just looking at his videos, it obviously linked to you because you've done some things together in the past, and I think you mentioned him on your channel.
Yeah.
And then through watching your videos, I got inspired even more. I thought, wow, this sounds unbelievable. I mean, and just from watching you and how you spoke about it so eloquently as well, I thought I got to try this. And I was almost in a state of delusion where I thought, when my second son was born, I thought, I could probably go to the gym. I could find a gym and go to the gym, and it'll be fine. I can go for an hour. But there is no time at all, even to do that. Trying to justify that with my wife and saying I got to do that, and it also feels a bit selfish
For
on my
sure.
part.
Like I had the same thing where you can say, "Oh, it's my wife giving me. She's not letting me do what I want to do." But really, your wife is telling you what you already know, which is
Yes, that's
there's
right.
you have much more important priorities right now. And
Yeah,
if you're jumping in your car and taking 30 minutes to drive to the gym and back when you could be taking care of your child, something's wrong.
100%. I 100% agree with that. And even more importantly is when you get to the gym, it's not going to be efficient either, because you're then dealing with people that are, maybe using the equipment you want to use and everything, and you wait in, and it's just not a fine-tuned process. And I thought it became apparent to me very quickly that that would not be the right way to do things. And so, yeah, just listening to your videos and the structure that you laid it out in having just 80 minutes in a week. And I thought, that's just unbelievable. It sounded achievable, yes, because some people do go, you spend an hour in one day in the gym or what have you.
Yeah.
So condensing it to 80 minutes just really appealed to me. And so I tried doing it, and I thought I'm going to give this a shot. And actually, I think this month, a couple of weeks back, marked the year anniversary from when I started. So I started doing the Busy Dad program, and I didn't meet you until we didn't start working together until I think probably
Yeah, 5 or 6.
5 or 6 months, yeah, after I started, yeah, because now, yes, we're 6 months in. So, and I must admit, in the beginning times when I first began the program, I wasn't fully adhering to the 80 minutes. I would do maybe 60 minutes or 40.
Yeah.
But then, as soon as we started working together, since then, bang on every week it's been 80 minutes, and it's just been phenomenal. It's been phenomenal since then. And I can attest to the 80 minutes being sufficient, because I don't run as much now, and to be honest, running was really taking it out on my knees.
Yeah.
And I have really bad knees for some reason. I think it's because when I was younger, I used to do like parkour and stuff like that. So
Oh,
well, very amateur parkour. I used to just jump off, walls or, roofs and stuff like that. And I
where
think,
was that? Was that in London? Did you grow up in London, Graham?
no, so I actually grew up in Zambia, and I lived there until I was 17.
Until you're
And
17.
yes, yes. So, and then I moved over when I was 17. So I used to do that more when I was in Zambia, like, because there's just a lot more landscape to do it, unencumbered, if you will. Like, I mean, it just seems there's a lot more rules when you come over to the UK that, for whatever, I mean, I did a little bit of it once I moved to the UK, but not as much. Um, so I think, yeah, just the constant just jumping off and landing on my knees and maybe not falling the right way just did a number on them. So even though I was running 5K and I was getting pretty good at it, I would find that at the end of it, walking upstairs, like, it would hurt my knees. And what I like about the burpees is that, I don't have to run as much. I find that I can do the 80 minutes in the week. I will still take my dog for a walk in between, like, every day virtually, and then I do the ancillary workouts as well, which is, doing like pull-ups as well, because I've installed a pull-up bar here at home,
Yeah.
and I find it sufficient. I find that you don't really need to go more than that, and yeah, and that's why I feel like I've done it consistently now for a year.
Yeah.
And I want to carry on with this going forward. So it's like parenting. I think for me, it's not going to be just a thing that you try, because it's a lifelong commitment, as you know,
Lifelong
as
commitment. Absolutely.
as being a parent is.
Exactly. And that's why for me the two things have been integrally tied in with each other. Um, we were going to stop at 10, Graham, but um, the next person who I'm due to talk with isn't here. So I said let's carry on a
Okay.
bit more because
Okay.
I, a couple of things I wanted to ask you about from that story you told. One was just it sounds like there was a moment where you kind of you you changed paths and you got on this path of self-improvement, the X effect, quitting the drinking.
Yes.
Was
Yes.
that reorientation connected with fatherhood for you?
Absolutely. I think undoubtedly it was connected with fatherhood. It's one thing when you don't have any dependence on you, and if you're, kind of living on your own, you can kind of I wouldn't say let yourself go, but you don't have that responsibility as much. And I think once I became a parent, I wanted to be there
Yeah.
for my children, just in simple terms. And so much, even over the past 3 years, because my son's about to be 3, I've realized how demanding it can be. And the burpee training has helped me endlessly, because there'll be times when, like with burpee training, it can be unforgiving at times, when you're down in the trenches and you're thinking, wow, I want the pain to stop. Sometimes, parenting can be so demanding, like your child wakes up at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, and you just have to perform. You always have to show up. You have to be there. And that, I found, yeah, I found that that road of self-improvement was because I'd become a father. I quickly realized that people were depending on me. It wasn't just about me anymore. And I think the burpee training kind of there's a harmony with that, because it seems like you're just doing it for yourself, but you're not. You're actually improving yourself to a point where your physical fitness, it results in you just being able to always perform. Whether it's be at 2 in the morning, three, you don't want to wake up, but you just have to be there.
Yeah.
And you'll see it through. You put the work in, and you realize afterwards you feel better. I mean, I come out of the burpee routines usually feeling great. I don't think I've had a workout so far where I've been like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. You know, they've always been, other than maybe once when I developed a slight niggle, maybe in my back or something like that. But that's just, I think comes with the territory. Sometimes you will develop little, bits that hurt here and there. And then you adjust your form, and you're still working things out. So yeah, I mean, performance is the key thing there. I mean, my son doesn't care if I'm feeling tired,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
in the morning. He doesn't care if I'm feeling ill. He just wants to know that, he can say, Daddy, let's do this. Let's go downstairs. Let's go outside. Let's, run about or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's why, yeah, I think it's the two go hand in hand, the
For sure.
training and fatherhood. Absolutely.
When I think about my own life, and I compare my 20s to my 30s, man, they're different. And man, I have been happier and better adjusted and more productive and more virtuous in my 20s than I
Yeah.
was in my 30s. And I think what changed, fatherhood was the primary driver of this change, but there were other things too. But this is the fundamental one: is a shift in orientation towards service, thinking that actually my main role in this life, my main vocation is to serve others,
Yeah.
not to serve myself. And
Yeah.
that reframes training completely. Training is now a practice that helps me serve those around me. Um,
Yes.
and, and,
Yes.
and what I want to become is a load bearing wall. I want to be able to, I want to be able to support the people around me.
Yeah.
And like you said, that building that capacity to just keep showing up, even though you're smashed, even though if you were serving yourself, you'd be back in bed right now. But because you're serving others, that's not an option. And building that capacity to just press the override button on that kind of self-centeredness and orient yourself towards others. It's made me the happiest I've ever been. And the burpee practice for me, that's fundamentally what this is about. It's about teaching me to serve others. And it
Yeah.
sounds
I
like
can.
that's kind of
Yeah.
your orientation as well.
I can relate to that 100%. Yeah. The serving of others, because I know as time goes on, there are going to be experiences that my children want to go and experience, and I want to be able to keep up with them to a certain degree. I know I won't be able to keep up with them forever, but for as long as possible, I want to be there when they play in their football games, or when they go camping or hiking or doing really challenging things. I want to just be able to yeah, to serve.
And another way of serving, I think, is the ability to remain calm in a crisis. And effectively, like physiologically speaking, every burpee session is a crisis.
In a crisis.
You're
Yeah.
working hard, and,
Yeah.
and yet you're still counting out the reps. You're still looking ahead. You're still calming yourself. You're still keeping stock of where you are. You're still making a plan, adjusting your plan if you need to. Okay, learning to do that amount of processing, thinking, calm reflection in the midst of a crisis. Okay, that's something that I think that you can carry into your life with your kids as well.
Definitely. I mean, there's so many. Yeah. So some of the other lessons learned from burpees would be, I wrote a few of them down. So yes, the crisis was one of them actually, and I think I'll come to that. But there was main one was the commitment, because like parenting, the regime helps you strive for commitment. The program helps you commit, because with fatherhood you're committed. you know, and I think I can really tie the two in with burpee training. I'm committed to the 80 minutes. I'm committed to being a practitioner, and I'm committed to being the best that I can physically, so that I can serve others and be there for other people that depend on me. Another lesson learned would be perseverance, and again, I think what you just mentioned with like, because it hurts, and you need to persevere. Um, because, for instance, I wish I could just have a shower today and a shower would last me forever, right? You have to have a shower every day, because, and I think with burpees, you don't just train once. You have to keep, sometimes I think, oh, should I have a week off? No, you can't. You can't. You just week in, week out. You
Yeah.
know, you can't just train once and think that that would just carry you on forever. So you have to persevere. And even on the days that you don't feel like doing it, I've seen some of your videos where you think, those days that you don't want to train, just go in there and just say, okay, you have a number that maybe you want to get to. And sometimes you'll find that you even do better than you think. So perseverance is a big one. You don't get conditioned by swimming downstream. You have to swim upstream, I think is the metaphor I want to use there. Prioritizing health is also another lesson learned because I think health is the true wealth, is the fundamental wealth. Without health, you can't do anything, and you can't help the people that depend on you as well, most importantly. And then overcoming obstacles, because there will be times when you get injured perhaps, and then there will be setbacks with any worthwhile endeavor. And I think being a burpee practitioner is a really worthwhile endeavor. You are bound to encounter setbacks or obstacles, and for me that has been where I am at the moment, which seems like a plateau, or it may not be, but it to me that could be a setback. Or when I was a few weeks or a month back when I had an injury, and we just varied the workouts. We just did something that would not aggravate that particular muscle. We would do maybe a 4 count, or we would do the JCs.
Mhm.
So there are things that you can do to actually overcome these obstacles. So yeah, overcoming obstacles is a big lesson learned, and also just a sense of purpose. I think is a big one as well, because you're and I've been doing it for a year already. So I feel I can do it for the next 5, 10 years.
Yeah.
And because there's a purpose behind it, and you can't get bored of it. Just like you said, you cannot, when you're in there and doing the workout, there's no chance of getting bored of it, because it's always challenging.
Yeah.
You always you always when you think about when you're starting and the end point, and the long road that you have to get between your starting and the end of the workout, it seems like you've got like such a big hill to climb, and you just get down there and you just start doing it. And I want to be able to get to a point where because you're able to I find it amazing how you can just count the reps every time, the steps, whether it's a 10 count or 6 count, you count the actual steps. And then when you finish, that's one. Then you count all the steps, and that's two. I haven't got to that stage yet. I just count the reps every time I do 1, 2, 3, one, and what have you. So, yeah, the sense of purpose, because I think, training and being a fatherhood, the two are so intertwined, and inextricably, so linked, that yeah, that's a big lesson for me, is the sense of purpose.
That's wonderful, man. And you radiate that sense of purpose. Congratulations on hitting a year of consistent training. And what I say to people, I'm 4.5 years deep. Um, I've had to miss weeks because of COVID and because of injuries. But if I'm ill and I'm even halfway okay, if I'm injured but the injury doesn't get in the way of doing what I need to do, I train. And I've not missed any weeks that I think I could credibly have trained. I've never made an excuse. I've never missed a session. That's not me. There's nothing
Yeah.
special about me. The story of my life up until then was a story of 3 months of this, 3 months of that, never sticking at anything, right? Sounds
Yes.
a little bit like you as well. This is
Yes,
this is
absolutely.
an approach to training that makes it effortless to stay consistent year round. And I can tell you, my man, you're a year deep. I'm 4.5 years deep. The gifts just keeps, it's the gift that keeps giving. The
Yeah.
unforeseen benefits just keep cascading into your life the deeper you get into this practice. And so, um, you're a year in, and that's wonderful. But you're also only just at the beginning of this practice.
Yeah. I realize that, and that's why I'm looking forward to, how much more room there is to improve, and that no matter where you are, I think there's always, whether it's your form or your reps or anything like that, there's always something that you can improve on, and it's a marathon, not a sprint. So I mean, we are sprinting sometimes in the workouts, but it's a lifelong endeavor, I think. So I know I will get there at some point. Whether it be level 3 with the 6 counts, and then eventually with graduation.
Yep.
I want to get there, as we work together, and I want to get there organically, and I'm not rushing to get to the end, because I don't think it's about getting to the end. I think it's just about cultivating that practice, week in, week out, and learning from people's experiences. And I'm so inspired by the people that you've had so far on the podcast, and I think Michael's journey as well, because there was something that he mentioned, I think in one of the previous episodes, where he goes for walks. I don't know what it's called, racking or something, where
Yeah.
you put some weight in your backpack,
Mm-hmm.
and just go. And I'm actually going to start doing that now, from now onwards, because I thought that's such a good idea. I take my dog for a walk anyway.
Yeah.
So why not do that at the same time?
Do it, man. We will keep learning from each other in this community. Graham, I'm
Yeah.
so pleased to have had you on the podcast. You exude a sense of purpose that you described, a sense of fulfillment. People, if you're listening and you're thinking about getting started with the Busy Dev program, ask yourself a question. Does this man seem happy? Because he seems happy to me. He seems very happy to me. And it seems to me that his burpee practice is bringing him real meaning and joy. It can do the same for you. So, Graham, thank you so much, man, for taking the time. It was a real pleasure.
It's been awesome, and hopefully maybe one day we can do it again, and I can speak about making shooting through the plateaus, and my
Oh,
experience
yeah.
about that.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah,
that would be
let's
wonderful.
get you up to level 3, and then let's
Yeah,
get you back on
yeah,
the podcast.
yeah.
All right, my man.
Awesome. That's
Okay.
great. Thanks so much, Max.
Absolute pleasure. Great to talk to you, my man.